Hey guys, you're watching Screen Rant. I'm Casey Spivey, bringing you the latest from New York Comic Con 2020. Earlier this year, Hunger Games author Suzanne Collins released a prequel to the popular book series, revealing the origin story of the villainous President Snow with a new lead heroine, Lucy Gray. On a panel discussing the upcoming film adaptation of the novel, film producer Nina Jacobson revealed why she thinks the prequels will help improve the Hunger Games franchise.
I think that the first movies will be even richer for living in a world with this prequel. I knew unequivocally that we would want to adapt it. You know, it presented different challenges than the others, certainly a bigger book, a longer book, but I knew for sure that there was no way we wouldn't want to see it adapted and on the big screen.
Thanks, Casey. Now, on to some plot theories on the film adaptation. Author Suzanne Collins set Hunger Games fans' appetites ablaze when she released her prequel novel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, earlier this year. The novel is set during the 10th Hunger Games, with the event very much in its infancy, and showcases how Panem and the games became the dystopia we know it to be, and of course, before the days of Jennifer Lawrence's Katniss, with the word only referring to a type of flower at this point. But one of the primary protagonists is an unlikely one, with the story being told through the eyes of a young Coriolanus Snow, who you will know as the dictator president in the trilogy played by Donald Sutherland. The book focuses on his struggles with his family on the brink of financial ruin, and how he sets to turn his fortunes around, primarily with his interactions with the District 12 tribute of the time, Lucy Greybeard. The games are a lot less glitzy and revered as they are in Katniss's time, and the prequel gives us a chance to see how things came into fruition, and how human nature and outside forces dictated the world around them. Critics have stated that it should satisfy fans who are desperate for answers about the birth of the Hunger Games, and all of the people who were involved in its creation. Collins was apparently slightly reluctant to return to the world of Panem, despite the fact that she had all of these stories collecting in her head as that door had somewhat closed, but to a number of people's relief, she did eventually opt to return to the world that she built. The prequel novel was a quick success, selling over 500,000 copies in its first week of release and hitting the top of the book charts. This, unsurprisingly of course, warranted a film adaptation, with Lionsgate again picking up the novel with the announcement coming in April of this year. Director Francis Lawrence, who worked on the original trilogy, has been confirmed to make his return and helm the movie, and Collins will continue to have an important presence on the movie, serving as producer. We're still waiting on casting news, primarily who's going to be playing a young Snow as well as Lucy, and we may have to remain patient in that regard. While production is still in its early days, thanks to exclusive content provided to us by New York Comic Con, we can reveal what exactly we might be seeing in this movie. During the Hunger Games panel, editor and fellow author David Levithan stated that Collins approached the novel in a philosophical way, and how a myriad of factors led to Snow becoming the president we know in the Hunger Games trilogy.
She approached it really because she wanted to talk about the philosophy behind it and human nature, and sort of how does human nature and sort of the Locke versus Rousseau turn into sort of who Snow becomes.
He continued this point, saying that this makes for a fascinating and engaging character, and while you may not like Snow or be convinced of his charms, his story is compelling, and you go all in on the character. But while Levithan found Snow to be a fascinating character, what he found to be perhaps even more intriguing is the evolution of Panem, and how a fledgling Hunger Games, which is so rudimentary at this point, acts as the platform for what it will become and the cutthroat event that Katniss partakes in. This is very much where the games take their direction, and it is a critical point in the history of the world, as it could have easily gone another way. In fact, it's due to human nature that things developed the way they did, and it could have been a lot more avoidable. In this prequel, human nature very much takes the forefront, with outside forces both leading people in one direction and amplifying good and bad parts of yourself. Levithan also added in the panel that the story doesn't quite take the fallen angel plotline that you might expect, and for those who haven't read the book, it may leave you rather surprised. But don't think that this is a dry movie by any means, with Levithan and critics saying that the book is thrilling and intense and on par with the trilogy, despite the fact that we know where the story will ultimately lead us. The movie will be a tense, character-driven ride and one that should certainly remain in keeping with the tone of the original trilogy. Film producer Nina Jacobson, who helped bring the original trilogy to life and is working on this prequel, was also involved with the panel and gave us an inside look into both the prequel and behind-the-scenes details of the original trilogy. Jacobson reflected on how when she initially read the first Hunger Games book, she knew instantly that she wanted to be the one to help bring it to the big screen and fought tooth and nail to make that happen.
And I became really obsessed with producing it, obsessed with the idea of how horrible it would be if I didn't get to be the one to produce it. And so I began a relentless offensive to win over Suzanne.
So when she learned that a prequel novel was in the works, she knew unequivocally that she again wanted to return audiences to the world of Panem, despite the prequel being a massive undertaking due to its length and scope. Despite the initial Hunger Games coming with its difficulties, like most movies, Jacobson said that everyone involved in the initial trilogy were genuinely like a family and was excited by the fact that she could get the band back together. She was even happy by the fact that she was locked in a room with only the book and some snacks, as she managed to get to return to the intricate and exciting world of the Hunger Games and was riveted from the get-go. But what most intrigued her about the novel is how it again delves into the world of politics and manages to again be a timely piece. But probably the aspect that got both Jacobson and Levithan excited the most was the fact that they could bring forth another intriguing leading character, Lucy Gray. While a young Snow may be a huge draw to the prequel, Lucy Gray was the character who really brought the books to life, and certainly has comparisons to another female protagonist in the Hunger Games world, Katniss Everdeen. Like Katniss, Lucy is a strong and underestimated character, as well as being a formidable force, but there are some notable differences between the characters. Chiefly the fact that Lucy has been a performer her whole life and knows how to play to the crowd, unlike Katniss, who is very much thrust into the limelight.
She is always a performer. You never really know where her thoughts lie, whereas Katniss, I think, is a much more direct. If she is mad at you, you know that she is mad at you.
Lucy very much knows how to stand out and understands the element of showmanship, which makes her an enigmatic character and a difficult person to understand, as we don't know what her real thoughts and motivations are. We don't know where her affections lie and what she believes in, and she very much has a poker face, unlike Katniss, who is not afraid to say how she feels and wears her heart on her sleeve. I mean, yeah, let's face it, Katniss isn't exactly shy to express her feelings or shout out the word PETA! Lucy is aware of her powers and is perhaps more outspoken than Katniss, and Jacobson believes that this could make for a richer story, but both are born out of necessity and survival. Katniss is the hunter and provider for her family, their prime defender who is toughened by the elements, while Lucy keeps her cards close to her chest and remains much more mysterious in order to survive. So while these two have their differences, they are both compelling characters, and Lucy will certainly make for an intriguing lead character when the prequel movie is eventually released. What do you make of the news? Have you read the book? Who would you cast in the movie? And which character are you most excited to see? Are you looking forward to returning to Panem? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to ScreenRant for more breaking news from New York Comic Con.